I, male 31, met my ex-girlfriend, female 29, on a dating app about 7 years ago. She had a son, 6 months at the time. She was with multiple guys and ended up pregnant. Still doesn't know who's the bio father, but it wasn't that much of an issue since she seemed like a great person and we had a lot in common. After a few weeks of chatting and talking online, we went on a first date and had a great time. After that we just started hanging out whenever she could, and shortly after she introduced me to her son. Few months into our relationship, we moved in together to save money since both of us were renting at the time. I started helping take care of her child whenever I could and we really grew fond of each other. He even started calling me Papa and we just went along with it since my GF didn't mind. Almost 5 years into our relationship, she told me that she wants to break up because I became boring and not an active person like I used to be. We used to go on hikes and travel around the country on weekends, and that I worked too much. It was a rough time after that and I had a hard time accepting it. Although not as hard as having to explain a 5-year-old that he'll no longer be seeing his papa. But I managed to get over it after a few months, found a better job that allowed me to work remotely and had a lot of free time, so I managed to explore a few other countries. Few days ago, I got a call from my ex. She said that she is sick and is in hospital. They removed one of her breasts, but recently they found a tumor in her other breast and will need to have it removed as well. She is scared that she might die if it doesn't work out and asked me if I would be willing to become her son's legal guardian and adopt him, since she has no one else to ask. I live a different lifestyle now, travel a lot and invest in myself, so I told her that I can't do that. She told me that her son misses me and would love to see me, but I said no again and she started crying and calling me names before cutting the call. I talked to my sister and parents about this and they told me that it's a fricked up thing to refuse it, after all those years spent with them. I feel like trash now. Am I an idiot for not wanting to adopt my dying ex-girlfriend's child? Update. After I made the original post, I've spent a bit thinking. I reached out to her friend, trying to get some info about. She didn't want to say much and told me that I should come over. I ended up going. Ex and her friend were there, kiddo was at school. Honestly felt completely different than I was expecting to feel. Anyways, she had the other breast removed. Quickly found out that it spread out and she was just starting with her therapy. Ex suggested that we stay until the kid returns. I remember what you guys said, but I just couldn't do it. I stayed, because I just wanted to see. I guess some of you were right about him remembering me. Or not. Walks in, says hi, and disappears somewhere, I guess his room. Walks back after a minute and starts staring at me. Papa, Papa, and runs at me. Ex starts crying out loud, and I tear up, barely holding myself from crying. I don't know if it's because of her crying or because of kiddo remembering. It was a great day. To cut it short, I started visiting her 2-3 times a week. But sadly, things were starting to get worse. Seeing her getting weaker and weaker, I decided to go through with the guardianship. Hired a lawyer, did tons of paperwork, interviews, investigation, and finally found the bio dad. Ex narrowed a list of people, and even without the DNA test, you could see from miles away that kiddo was a mini version of one of the guys. Both Ex's mom and bio dad signed the consent and waiver, but even if they didn't, they probably wouldn't have a chance to make a difference. After 2 months, the judge made his decision and I finally became a legal guardian. Sadly, my ex passed away roughly 3 months ago, after which I started the adoption process that still goes on. Had 2 court hearings so far, and another one will be in about 2 weeks. So far, things went well, so I'm hoping for the best. No idiots here. You shouldn't feel guilty for refusing. It's also understandable why she chose you. And honestly, who can blame her for trying to make sure her son stays with someone she can trust, and someone that the kid loves? Her calling you names was wrong, but I guess she's under so much stress right now that her fear and frustration have probably taken over for that moment. Not an idiot, but I would encourage you to really think about this, and not instantly rule it out. It's not fricked up for you to refuse it, but if it's true that she has no one else to ask, then you might be saving this child, who is getting dealt a really shot hand in all of this, from a really shot life. At least strongly consider it, if you have the means. But ultimately, if you decide against it, it isn't on you. Let me know in the comments what you think he should have done. Now, for the next story. Am I an idiot for telling my sister not to boss me around in my own home after she insisted on telling me what to do? I'm 42, the eldest of 8 siblings. This concerns my youngest sister Alina, 23. My husband and I have 2 kids, 16 and 13. Alina's staying with us for 4 months because she started at a new college, and she needs some time to sort out housing. She's been here for a couple of weeks so far. Last night she made dinner for everyone. She said she wanted to. The way dinner usually works in my household is I dish up the food, then my kids take it to their rooms to eat. We obviously have family dinner too. But this is just more convenient for all of us as we don't have to spend time setting the table every day. And we can eat at different times if needed. Also, by different times I don't mean someone eats at 7 p.m. and someone eats at 3 a.m. Just a small gap. I know this isn't for everyone and that's okay, but this is what works for our family. Alina knows this. So last night she made fried dumplings, orange chicken, fried rice and chocolate cake for dessert. I went into the kitchen to thank her and saw her setting the table. I told Alina she doesn't need to do that and we'll take food from the pot. My 13-year-old started saying she was hungry, so I went to get food since everything was done. But Alina stopped me and said to wait a few minutes and we'll eat together. Again, I told her that's not how it really works here. One of my kids is hungry now, but my 16-year-old usually eats a bit later. Alina then said she was going to serve the dumplings first. then chicken and rice and cake after. I repeated to her. Again, we can get the main food at once, cake later, and if anyone wants seconds we'll come and get it. It's fine, no need to set the table. She looked upset and said she wants to have a nice dinner together and involve the kids. I had enough at this point, so I told her I know my kids and family. She doesn't have to dictate what we do in my home. My husband saw what was going on and told Alina thanks, but we know how to serve ourselves. Alina eventually understood, but she was acting sulky and giving me the cold shoulder this morning. Am I an idiot? Update. It's pretty early in the morning, but I'm up and wanted to post an update. Couldn't reply to all the comments, but I'll cover some questions people were asking here. Firstly, thanks to the comments who were kind and tried to understand both mine and Alina's side, and I can see we had some communication issues. 1. I knew even before I posted a lot of people would gloss over the question I was even asking and immediately jump on we have our dinners separately. As I mentioned, I know this doesn't work for everyone. That's fine. This is what works for us. I don't neglect my kids, they're happy, healthy teens. 2. A lot of comments about what we do at restaurants. We eat at restaurants how everyone eats at restaurants. My home isn't a restaurant, so we eat here how we eat at home. 3. Some comments saying Alina wanted to make dinner because she was feeling lonely and we made her feel lonelier. No, she said she wanted to make a meal because she had some news to share. I never ask her to make food, do any chores, etc. She's free to do as she wishes. I did have a chat with Alina and we appreciated the meal, but she's been here for a few weeks already and knows very well what our eating routine is like. I did apologize for a misunderstanding on my part, but having dinner exactly the way she wants isn't the only form of appreciation. We all told her the food was delicious, because it was, and that should be enough. She seemed to understand and said okay, but was still a little quiet around us, so I think I'll let her cool off for a bit. You're an idiot and your update makes it even worse. She literally asked you in advance, could she cook for you guys and set a date in advance to have time together to share the news? One dinner, one meal. She's not dictating your lives, but you shut down hers. I hope the meal was wonderful, Alina, and that at least one person was with you for your news. You're an idiot. You still don't understand that what you did was incredibly rude. Your sister made you all a 3-course meal and wanted to sit down with all of you, and you couldn't give her that, because it's so important to you to do things your way without any consideration for your sister. And since your sister has been at your place for a couple of weeks and has seen how you eat like solitary cave people, she probably wanted to have a nice social meal with the people she lives with for once, like a sane person. Now, for the next story. Am I an idiot for not taking in my son and his family? My ex-wife and I adopted our son when he was 6. We had been his foster parents for 3 years and we wanted to make it official. He met his wife when he was 18. She knew he was adopted and she thought it would be good for him to get to know his biological parents. Over the course of the next few years, my ex-wife and I were slowly pushed out of his life. When they got married, we only received a wedding invitation. We were not part of the wedding party. His biological parents and their spouses sat at the family table. We have not had the opportunity to meet our granddaughter and she is nearly 3 years old now. I am sad about the situation, but my ex-wife is heartbroken. I hate to see her hurt when all she did was try to be a good mom. I can honestly say that I am not a fan of my daughter-in-law and I wish she had never come into our lives. Recently they have run into financial problems and they lost their home. My son's job is in the city we live in and his biological parents and his in-laws all live in other cities. He called my ex-wife to ask if they could stay with us while they got back on their feet. I said no. My ex-wife wants to, but I refuse to be used. He has been distancing himself from us for 9 years now. The only reason he called was because he is desperate. I don't think I owe him anything. I offered to pay for whatever it costs for him to move his family to the cities where his real family is. His wife called me to scream at me. She says that I am abandoning my son and grandchild. I said that since he didn't think of us as parents when they got married and had a child, then they should not think of it that way now. Then I blocked her. My ex-wife says that I'm being too harsh and that I need to forgive them. But here's the thing. I don't think it will change anything. All that will happen is that they live in our home and then they abandon my wife again as soon as the chance presents itself. Edit. He was removed from his biological parents because they were very young and it wasn't a good situation. If they had been older or more stable, I'm sure they would not have severed their parental rights. Edit. Sorry, I edited my post to make it more clear. His mom and I are divorced. She is in an extended care facility and he cannot live there. I kept our home. I am still friends with her and we see the kids together as a family. I still care for her deeply, but her condition wasn't something she wanted me to deal with. Our son didn't even know we had separated when he called her. Not an idiot. Such a tough situation though, and I see why your wife deeply wants them in her life. It would be devastating to have a child. They push you out and you never get to meet your granddaughter. I think you guys would be much better off with protecting yourselves from any future pain he can cause you with leaving again. Not an idiot. He has made clear how he feels over the last 9 years. You haven't even met his child. If he didn't need money or a place to live, I highly doubt you would have heard from them at all. Time for his bio family to cough up the money to help him. Because you know that as soon as he doesn't need your home and money, you won't hear from him again. Now, for the last story. Am I an idiot for calling out my wife's adult son to stop wearing crazy revealing clothes in front of my family? I'm writing this for me and my family. Me, male 38, and my wife Alice, a female 37, have been together for 7 years. We have a couple of twins, both male 6, and we're a very happy family. My wife also has a son, Luke, 19M. He got an athletic college scholarship, but he dropped out and he's currently pursuing a career as a musician in another city. He stays in our home whenever he visits for holidays or vacations. Luke's very tall, so it is difficult for him to go unnoticed. When I say revealing clothes, I mean that he wears thigh shorts, so tight you can see his boxers, crop tops, women's blouses. I mean, it is very distracting as his pubes and trail are very visible. One time I catched him wearing a skirt while watching TV in our living room. I gave him a disapproving look and all he said to me was, "Man, you know we're Irish, don't you?" Which is a crazy thing to say, and I think kilts are from Scotland anyway, but that's not the point. In another instance, he would sit for dinner with a pearl necklace, eyeshadow and a fur coat. For example, my mother and sisters and their kids visited us for CHR steamas and they agreed that it was odd to have a guy dressing like that around the house, especially in front of so many women. A few weeks ago after Christmas dinner, I talked to Luke and voiced my concerns, and he was like, "Okay Cap, no problem," and "Okay sir." "Yes sir." Copy that sir, clearly mocking me. I must admit I got angry and I yelled at him. I went to vent out my frustration with my wife. However, she didn't back me up or take me seriously, even when I raised my concerns about our boys seeing his older brother acting a fool. I checked her phone and she was texting with Luke, again just joking and making fun of me. Luke texted her something like, "Not your husband body shaming me lol, I didn't get the Hugo Boss dress code memo." And my wife replied, "Follow the dress code young man or you'll be executed at midnight. I don't make the rules babe, I'm sorry 20. I got so mad I gave both of them the silent treatment for the rest of the holidays. Alice tried to talk me down by saying that he's not wearing anything around the house he wouldn't be wearing in public, so our boys would be seeing that style sooner or later whether we liked it or not. She was condescending, like she was talking to an angry old man from another century. I don't know. I don't feel like I was asking something unreasonable and I felt they were bullying me for expressing a reasonable concern about what my twins and my family are seeing in their own home. Our home, my home, and at the end of the day, it is my house, my rules too. Am I an idiot? You're an idiot. We know because you said this was about him dressing revealingly, but you still had a problem when he was covered up at Christmas dinner when a pearl necklace is totally appropriate, I might add. Your problem is not that it's revealing, but that it's gender non-conforming. You're an idiot. You looked at your wife's private messages to her son. That's a disgusting violation. This is very obviously about control. You need to stop trying to bend your family to your will. It's wildly unreasonable.